Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Nonito
We want to invite the biggest hearted promotional person I've ever met and a great friend to us,
Yes.
Mr. Richard Schaefer.
Thank you. The royal couple of boxing. Look at them. Look at those belts behind. And if you don't know, they are not just all of them Nonitos. There's actually one which is Rachel's first female trainer ever to get recognized by the WBC with the belt. I mean, congratulations to you. And of course, the 9-division world champion, 4 different weight classes, a close friend of mine. And I'm so honored and proud to be your promoter, be your friend, and to be on this podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
So a lot of people are wondering who you are, and I want to give you the stage to give the background, and Nonito will be the translator to kind of give some.
Well, I don't want to. I'll translate in a bit. I think that we should let Richard have his thoughts and allow him to speak everything that he has to say, and I'll go right after that.
So let's talk about your background, Richard, because a lot of these millennials, of course, are new to boxing. So they're still playing catch up.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so I was born and raised in Switzerland from a traditional banking family. My father, my grandfather, my sister, everybody has been in banking. My sister actually still is. And so the expectation was for me to go into banking. And when you grow up in Switzerland, you really have banking, you have watches, you have chocolate, and most people end up in one of those 3. And so I ended up in banking. I came here to the United States in 1988 as a young man, really not made much more than a suitcase full of dreams. I must admit I had my swimsuit in that suitcase as well, because after all, I came to Los Angeles. And I started my banking career here in Los Angeles with a bank which is known now as Union Bank of Switzerland, UBS, which is one of the largest banks in the world. I worked my way up and became the head of the Los Angeles office, and then the whole region, the Western United States, and finally the deputy CEO for the entire United States. And back in '92, when a young fighter came back with the gold medal, Oscar de la Hoya, I became friends with him because through a mutual relative. And in 2000, he approached me and asked me if I would be open to join him and form a new promotional company. I did that. My family wasn't very happy back in Switzerland. They thought I was crazy to leave banking and go into boxing. But I never looked back and I never regretted it. So we started Golden Boy Promotion, and I was the CEO for Golden Boy Promotion from its beginning up to 2014 when I decided to leave and that it was time to move on. During my time at Golden Boy, I was fortunate to really build it up into the biggest and most prestigious global boxing promotion company in the world back then. I was fortunate to promote many of the greatest champions of our time. Since 2007, I promoted all of the man who is right here behind me, Floyd Mayweather. All of his fights you see in the outfit there behind me, the executioner, Bernard Hopkins, but so many other fighters, Marco Antonio Barrera, Juan Manuel Marquez, Sugar Shane Mosley, Vinky Wright, you see over there Ricky Hatton, Paulie Malignaggi, Marcos Maidana. I mean, the list goes on and on. In all, I was able to promote over 400 championship fights, which actually I think, as per BoxRec, puts me on number 3 of the list of most championship fights promoted by a single promoter. So I'm very proud of what I achieved there. Then I left those days behind, and I focused on stepped away from boxing, focused on real estate here in the San Gabriel Valley in Los Angeles, particularly with the focus on the Asian segment as well. And then started with some friends, Ringstar Sports. We signed some fighters, and now I started with a group of very, very smart people. Frankly, the smartest people I ever met. I started Probellum, which is a sports and media company, a promotional company, and we're really here to change the sport. It is certainly the best capitalized promotion business as well. So we're very excited to build up the sport and unify the sport and do something continue to do something which I have done throughout my career as a boxing promoter. And Nonito knows that, and Rachel knows that. And I think that's one of the reasons why we get along so well. That is to empower fighters, make fighters get the right fights and treat them right and treat them fair. And that is sort of like what I'm known for. Among fighters, I'm known as a fighters promoter, a promoter who looks out for the fighters he promotes.
Yes, and I could attest for that. Sorry, Nonito had to go make the boys be quiet. But we could attest for that. And like I said, in my quote, there are a lot of boxers, a lot of fighters, a lot of families of boxers that we have talked to, and all of them have nothing but the best things to say about how humble and how compassionate Richard is for boxers.
Well, that's the most important. I always say that you need to treat the talent right. You need to treat the athletes right, because without fighters, meaning we as promoters, but not just us as promoters, the TV networks, the managers, the sponsors, and most importantly, the fans. What do they have without the fighters? We have nothing. There is no boxing. There is no sport. So those people which really are the sport and make the sport and risk their life and put their hard work, their sweat, blood, and tears into this. And I'm not just talking about fight night. I'm talking about the camps, the preparations, the sparring. People don't see that. I see it. So how can you not treat them right? I mean, I don't understand it. And that was always my philosophy, and I'm certainly going to continue to do that. I'll never change.
Well, I know that for sure, and I mentioned this earlier before you came in, how much trust this business needed, and when you came along in that picture, I mean, pretty much that says it all. My loyalty and my friendship goes along with it, but you were that one person that really truly allowed me to feel safe in this sport.
Well, and what I like as well, I like to give opportunities, and we talked about that before, Nonito. After you left Top Rank, there was a lot of doubters out there. They said, "Oh, he's too old, and he's like maybe he should retire," and things like that. And that happened to you, but you're not the only one. It happens to a lot of other fighters as well. They're basically only as good as their last win. And when a fighter loses, in your particular case, it wasn't even a just decision. You should have had that fight against Magdaleno. You should have won that fight. That was your fight. But be it as it is, in the sport of boxing, fighters, athletes are written off so quickly. And we have to change that mindset, like look at UFC. A fighter, you have champions which have like 10 wins and 4 losses, and they're not so caught up about the losses. It's about entertainment. It's about bringing your best and giving your best effort. And you are a shining example in that, Nonito. You are must-see TV. And so I couldn't believe how lucky I was when you came and we sat down, and finally, after all these years, it was always my dream to finally work with you. And you know that. We talked about that many times. And finally, it happened. So I was just really, really thrilled. And that's the kind of opportunities me, but I know you as well, want to give to other fighters. And you have so much to give still as a fighter. You're a world champion and you have your goal set on unifying the division. There's so many goals still out there, and I'm just proud to be part of that journey. But at the same time, I think now we are starting to lay the foundation for what is next once you do retire. What is next for Nonito Donaire? And you have so much to give, so much knowledge, so much insights. You dealt with managers, different managers. You dealt with promoters, different promoters. You fought in different countries. You won fights, you lost some. How do you deal with the loss? So imagine that knowledge you have as a fighter, how valuable that is for young fighters. And for you to be willing to share that knowledge and that experience, that is, you're going to continue to give to the sport so much more.
Well,
Thank you, Richard.
thank
I'll
you.
do my best as always, and it's great to be working with a really amazing and trustworthy person like you. So it gives me a lot of hope. It gives me a lot of dedication.
And I think if people haven't seen yet, Nonito had announced, Richard had announced, Probellum has announced that we have signed with Probellum. And I think this is a great question coming from Pete Croft. What's the unique aspect of Probellum compared to BBC, etc.?
Well, we really want to unite. And in the past,
Yeah.
and I have to admit, I was one of them. One of those promoters who like to play in their own sandbox. And whether if it's all of the promoters, whether it's me when I was at Golden Boy, or whether if it's PBC or Aram or Eddie Hearn or whoever it is, all of them, they sort of like to play in their own sandbox. And there is nothing wrong with it. But what you really do is you don't give the fighters necessary all the opportunities. So what we want to do, we want to unify. We want to change that. We want to work with everybody. We want to work with every promoter. And if we do have a great fighter, for example, like a Nonito Donaire who signed now with Probellum, does that mean that he can only fight on Probellum promoted shows? No, he can fight wherever the right fights are. If they are with PBC, they're with PBC. If they're somewhere else, they're somewhere else. We don't want to stand in the way for the fighter to achieve his dreams. And I think that is fundamentally a different philosophy. Thinking outside of your sandbox, think about the playground, the whole playground. The playground's name is boxing, and we want to play in boxing. We want to be part of everything. And that's why we have started, since our formation about 2 weeks ago, to execute a number of co-promotional agreements with some of the biggest promoters in different countries, but not just in the biggest countries, not just in like the UK or the United States. No. We are thinking about countries which you might say, well, why do they go there? In Ghana, Africa, in Lithuania, in Latvia, in New Zealand, in Australia, in the Dominican Republic. I mean, pretty much anywhere, from all over the world in smaller markets. We want to empower those local markets. We want to lift those markets. And when I say lift, we are going into those markets as sponsors. We are helping with infrastructure. We're helping with money. We're helping with expertise to lift those markets and support these local promoters. And that's really different as well. So far, promoters have really thought about just their home market and not really about the whole world. So for us, that playground, which I call boxing, is not just a particular country. It's truly global. It's truly the world. Because there are so many great fighters coming from all different kind of places, and because maybe they are from Ghana or from Nigeria, or they are from New Zealand, or they are from like small the Dominican and so on, they don't get the same opportunities. We want to change that. We want to give fighters the opportunity to compete at the highest level, fight for the world titles, and in the process change their lives. And hopefully we are going to find some which are going to be one day as successful as Nonito is with all the belts behind him. I know that's a tall order and a big ask, but you know what? These young men, these young women from all over the world, they have those dreams. They look up to somebody like Nonito and to Rachel as a trainer, to or as a fighter. They look up and they look at those belts and they say, "Oh, I wish I would have one of them." We want to help them.
Well, I think this is a great question. Will we see more Filipino boxers under Probellum, and how is Probellum going to help the Filipino boxers actually get the exposure that they deserve? And
Yes, that's a great question, and I think you, Rachel, and you, Nonita, are going to be very instrumental in that. The answer is yes. Look, if you sort of like have to put the most important markets for boxing, where boxing is a sport, obviously everywhere, but where boxing really is in the fabric of the population and of the people, I think the Filipinos are right there. I've been to many of Manny Pacquiao's fight. I co-promoted many of Pacquiao's fights, like for example Pacquiao and Hatton, or Pacquiao and Marquez, or Pacquiao and De La Hoya. So I've seen the Filipinos. I've seen how they are fired up, and how they are excited, and how they embrace the sport and the athletes. So absolutely, do we want to sign more Filipino fighters? We want to help to develop and discover the next Nonito Donaire and the next Manny Pacquiao, and we want to help these. And so how are we going to do that? We are going to do exactly what I said before. We will enter into strategic alliances, co-promotional agreements with some of the promoters in the Philippines. We will work very closely with Nonito and with Rachel. They are going to help us. They're going to be like our brand ambassadors and really help us find the right talent, make the right connections, because they know that market so well, much better than I do. And that has always been, by the way, a philosophy of myself. Ever since I entered business, I like to surround myself with people that are smarter than I am, because if I know whatever area of the business better than I do, in this case, the Donaires with the Philippines, because if I surround myself with people that are smarter than I am, they're going to make me look good. And if I surround myself with people which are not so smart, they're going to make me look bad. So guess what? I want to look good.
And you look great, Richard. You look great. You look amazing.
I think that's really important, to be reaching out to all, like you said, it's not just the big countries like the United States, like Canada. It's the smaller countries that are really not getting this exposure, and they do have amazing boxers. They're just not getting, maybe they'll do a local show, and maybe a side TV that's kind of like a really, really small channel with low viewership. This platform, correct me if I'm wrong, will be able to give them that worldwide platform where they'll be able to be seen.
That's exactly the idea. That's another reason why we are signing all these deals all around the world, to bring content, worldwide content, and so that fight fans can see some of these young fighters, which early on in their careers, because before they have not been able to see them, and that we can put together every year or every 6 months sort of like a highlight reel about some of those local fighters, be it like the best knockouts from around the world, or the best rounds from around the world, and the best entrances from around the world. So there's so many things you can do with that, and sort of like get the fight fans excited about a young fighter early on in his or her career. And that's what it is about empowering, because often when you come from one of those smaller markets, um, unfortunately fighters are being rushed into the US market, and they are perceived as opponents, and they're not being properly built up, and they come here as opponents, and often they lose, and then they have to go back in line, where and sort of like early on. So for me, we want to build these fighters. It would be a dream for me to build a young Filipino male or female fighter and have them actually win the world title in the Philippines. Imagine. And then go and defend the world title in the Philippines. Now, in granted, maybe one would say, well, the money is much bigger in the United States, and that's why all these fights are happening in the United States or in the UK. That's true. But if you sit down with a young fighter and you explain them how important it is to have that connection to the local market, to the local people, to your home country, and yes, maybe you're going to leave some money on the table, but imagine what that does for you going forward. If you can become world champion in your home country, or you can go, if you win the belt in the US, you go home and you do the first defense from the Philippines, things like that. It elevates you to a totally different level.
Well, what I love, and I'm just going to speak on the personality of Richard, is that he is so humble. Um, he is this guy that doesn't need all the glitz and glamour of the boxing world. We just met with him on Saturday, and it was literally just sweats and t-shirt in a great restaurant, an amazing resort. And I think that's what I love about you, is that we can talk to you on a level that we're friends. We are friends, and it's not like you are not able to be reached, and that you don't have time for us. You really make time for the fighters and listen to their concerns, and I think that's really important.
That's the most important. I mean, look, when you texted me earlier this afternoon about today's Zoom, we talked in the morning a couple of times, and I told you a crazy busy day. I'm doing a lot of deals overseas, so I have, like, from early morning to late. I have tonight at 10:30 a Zoom call with Singapore. So Rachel texted me, "Are you available for a call, Zoom call?" I said, "Yes, of course, always for you." And here we are. So this is like more important than talking to anybody else, to be here with you, Nonito and Rachel. So of course, that's what. And what I like as well about you guys. This is how I live my life as well. I always see you together. You're always together. We talked about that.
There's an invisible string you don't see.
Yeah, a string just keeps us attached by the
No,
hip.
you guys are like best friends, and that's exactly how I am with my wife as well. We're like best friends, and you see me and my wife and my boys. I have three boys, which are older now, 22, 25, and 26. But when we were talking about it on Saturday when we saw each other, when you were fighting against Ubali, challenging yet again for another world title here in Carson, California, some months ago, earlier this year. They were all there. My boys were there. My wife was there. They were all there cheering you on. Now, two of the boys have girlfriends. Even the girlfriends came. So, and the girlfriends actually have never been to a live fight. But man, did you make them boxing fans that night? They said, "Whoa, this is the most exciting event we've ever been to," because you delivered. You really delivered. It was an amazing performance. I mean, that night, somebody who's never seen boxing, if you watch that fight with Nonito against Ubali, you're an immediate fan.
Thank you,
Yes.
Richard. I was very, very excited. I mean, just hearing this, and I had this experience from the past. How you were saying that everybody just played in their own sandbox. Now that everybody is able, you're giving them that opportunity to fight anyone and anywhere. It gives a lot of hope for a lot of fighter who wants to prove to everybody that they're the best. That was me all this time, all the years. I've always wanted to fight everybody, and now that this opportunity with you and for everybody else that is coming up, to see that there is no more walls to be put in place of fighting another champion.
Absolutely. We want to build bridges. We want to, and it's maybe easier said than done, but we're really going to do it. And I think we are on the right track by empowering these local promoters. And hopefully, down the road, we are going to convince the diehard promoters as well that working together does work. And, I mean, in a way, I can't believe I'm saying that because I was one of them. I didn't believe in either. I mean, I have to be honest, I have to be honest that as great as this all sounds, with unifying and so on, I can't really take the credit for it because it needed somebody else to open my eyes, and that person who opened my eyes was actually two people. It was Ali Shamspoor, who is the chairman of the board of Probellum. He's a very successful businessman based in the UK. He owns a soccer team as well, very passionate about boxing. And he said, look, if we want to elevate, because if we want to elevate the sport and we want to change things, we need to change our mentality. We need to think outside of that sandbox. And he really opened my eyes. And it didn't take long for me to catch on. And it's exactly what I said before. Surround yourself with people that are smarter than I am. And he is one smart guy. So he opened my eyes.
It's just so amazing having you here because of the fact that like we really always followed your lead, really. Like when people were asking, are you guys signing to Probellum, it was never a question in our mind. Like I said in my quote, we'd follow you into the fire. And you are always the one that's leading the way. It's not like you're shoving us in front and we're the ones that are like, what are we supposed to do here? You're the general that's leading everyone, and you're making sure everyone's safe, happy, and you have compassion for the ones that are wounded, and you bring them back up to be healthy again to fight another day.
Yes, look, for me, that ultimately the most important thing is, of course, the health and well-being of anyone, of a fighter, because it's a brutal sport. And so, I recently talked to a fighter who had some injuries and he wants to come back. And I said, look, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but you do need to go to see the absolute best doctors and get clearance. And I need to be able to talk to the doctor. And if we cannot do that, I suggest that you retire because it's not worth it. Your health is the most important thing, particularly if you have a wife, if you have kids, which was the case or is the case with this particular fighter. So I know the kids and I know the wife, and they're just nice people. So I always want to do the right thing. It's not just like, let him fight again and things like that. No. The well-being is important. But at the same time, if a fighter gets cleared by a doctor and it's okay to fight, then let's give that fighter the opportunity to fight. Let's give them the opportunity to make a living, and let's give them an opportunity to win those fights, and that's what it's all important. That's why it's so important. What is important as well, and you touched on that, Rachel, when I do an event, I'm always there from the first round on. From the first fight on, I want to be there, and I want these young fighters to see me ringside, cheering them on. Before the fight, I go into all the fighters' locker rooms, even those I don't promote, which are perceived as opponents, and I go and wish them good luck. And after the fight, I do the same, and if somebody loses, like perfect example when Nonito beat the undefeated Nordin Ubali, the WBC world champion, and Nonito knocked him out in Carson. I talked about that fight a little while ago. Of course, I'm with Nonito. Of course, I'm in the ring, and of course, I'm happy and hugging Nonito and all that. And of course, I'm going to the locker room with Nonito. But you know what I did as well? I went as well into Ubali's locker room, and I went to give him words of encouragement. It was his first loss, I didn't promote him. He was not my fighter. And you know what I told him? I said, look, I'm going to talk to the WBC to make sure that you are going to stay relevant in the rankings, that you're going to continue to be highly ranked, so that down the road you're going to have another opportunity and you're going to become world champion again. Again, is not my fighter. I have nothing to gain. I'm not going to make a penny off that, but it's the right thing to do.
It's just amazing, every single thing that you do. I mean, I don't even know what to say half of the time when you come up with these amazing ideas and amazing partnerships like Probellum, um, and give the fighter really what they want. Like, and as much as Richard said that he was in the ring when he won with Ubali, he was in the locker room after the Ubali fight. I need to emphasize that during the losses, he was also in the locker room. He was with us with the Carl Frampton loss, and especially with the Inoue fight. He didn't leave our side. He didn't just scuttle out of the arena when he lost with his head down and, said he had meetings. He was there for us when we needed him the most. And usually that is the time in a locker room after a loss.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's like I have a string with Richard too. So wherever Richard goes, I'm gonna be there because he's been there, and I can attest to that. He's like a family to me. Not only that, the respect that I have for him, but mainly for all the times. I mean, I've been with many people, and I've seen many people, and through thick and thin, Richard has always been there the same way. So that's why my loyalty will always be there. It's a
Thank
partnership.
you. Thank you. I feel the same way, and you're just an amazing man. The way you carry yourself, in and outside of the ring, and you mentioned the Frampton fight. So for those, you can probably watch it on YouTube. When the fight is over, I don't think they didn't even announce yet the winner or who won the fight. You see me jumping up on the ring apron, and you see me talking to Nonito right there. I mean, the fight barely stopped, and I asked him a question, and I'm sure you remember. I asked you,
Yes.
can you move down to 118? And the Frampton fight, I think, was like at 126, right? Or was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was at 126. So I said, can you move down to 118? Usually it's not an easy thing, because once you gain weight, it's difficult to lose it. but so Nonito said, yes, I can. Why? I said, well, I'm going to tell you why later. I just needed to know if you can. And I didn't tell him that night, or not even the next day, why I asked him that question. But as I was sitting there, I thought, like, whoa, at 118, Nonito will beat the big man. He will beat the big man. And the other guys who moved up from 112 to 118, they're going to be the little guys. And I think that's going to be great for Nonito to be at 118. I don't think anybody at 118 can beat him. And so then there was that tournament which we announced shortly after, the World Boxing Super Series, which of course had the 118 weight class as one of the featured weight classes. And I was on the board of the World Boxing Super Series, and I called the following week after the Frampton fight. I called my friends over there, and I said, look, I like to put Nonito Donaire into the tournament. And they said, yeah, but it's impossible. He can't make 118. We would love to have him, but he's older now. And usually older fighters, they can't really move down in weight. They move up in weight, but not down. And it's too risky. What if he doesn't make weight and then we have a problem? And he says, look, you don't understand. He is the ultimate pro. If Nonito tells me he's going to make 118, you can take that to the bank. He's going to make 118. He never, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you ever missed weight.
No, never in my entire career, from the amateurs.
Exactly. So you see, I didn't even know that, but I knew it. I didn't even have to ask you, because I knew that's the pro you are. And then, of course, he entered the World Boxing Super Series, and the rest is history. They thought, like, oh yeah, It's going to be probably, he was like, there were like 6 fighters. I think you were like seeded number, I don't know, 5 or something like that. They thought like
It was 8 or something. I thought it was the last
something
one.
like, it was 8 fighters. Yeah. So they saw like the last ranked fighter. They thought like, yeah, you know, he's done. There's no chance. I said, you watch and see. He's gonna win this thing. He's gonna win this thing. And sure enough, you know, he just breezed through the opponents, became WBA world champion again when Ryan couldn't continue, and became world champion again, and then goes into the monster's den in Japan, in his backyard for Inoue, and it turned out to be fight of the year. He shattered, not only broke, he shattered Inoue's eye socket. Inoue couldn't fight for I don't know how long, like almost a year or 8 months or something like that. And then the fight was fight of the year. And even though the fight didn't go his way, as I was sitting there, just like after you lost with Frampton, when I was sitting there and watching you, I knew what the next move was going to be. And I knew there what the next move was going to be. The next move was on Monday after the fight. I got on the phone with Mauricio Suleiman. You look at back there, you see these WBC belts. He is like very close. Nonito is very close with Mauricio Suleiman, was very close with Mauricio's father, Don Jose Suleiman, was actually Don Jose Suleiman's favorite fighter. And I've learned from Mauricio. And I called and I said, look, Nonito is a legendary fighter, a legendary WBC champion. You should make him mandatory to Ubali. And that is exactly what happened. So it's about not giving up. It's about planning and putting the things in motion then. And it's a little bit the same with Probellum. You know, you not just go out there and you're like, oh, today we signed this guy and tomorrow no. It's about what we're doing right now with your help, Nonito and Rachel, in the Philippines, but really on a global scale. We're building the foundation of Probellum. And as it is the case with a tree, if a tree doesn't have strong roots, or a house, you take a shortcut on building the foundation, it will not stand. So we're not going to rush. We are going to build a strong foundation. And I get asked and emailed and text, like when I tell you, not dozens, but hundreds of fighters who would like to sign with Probellum. Hundreds. So that is not the point right now. And we are going to be very selective on who we are going to sign to promotional agreements. We want fighters which are not just going to be, which obviously can fight, which carry themselves in a positive way, which are ambassadors to the sport and are positive, and can be role models. And so this is important for us to do that.
Well, I think this question is a great ending question for our interview, because I don't want to take too much of your time. But this is exactly what we've been talking about: is if there are possibilities that Probellum can partnership with the local promoters in the Philippines to search for fighters.
Absolutely. And you could actually answer that question, because funny enough, the three of us, Nonito, Rachel, and me, we talked about exactly that in length when we had our get together on Saturday, and then this morning again. And it's the honest truth. I mean, we did talk about exactly that, because yes, we want to enter into co-promotional relationships in the Philippines. We want to empower local promoters in the Philippines. And as a matter of fact, Rachel and Nonito are going to reach out to some of them over the coming days, and then we are going to see on who we're gonna work with. But that is exactly right. That's about building the foundation in the Philippines. It's not just about, let me sign this guy, let me sign that guy. That's like the old thinking. we want to sign with a promoter, a local promoter, empower them. And empower, what does that mean? Give them money. Yes, give them money. We're not going to go there and ask for money from them. We're going to go there and give them money to empower them, that they can build their business, that they can attract talent, and that they can build up talent. And if you want to become a superstar, a global superstar, how can you become a global superstar if you're not even a star in your native country? So it starts there. We need to build you up as a local star, a regional star, a national star, and then we take you to the United States. We're not going to just have you build up a record, I don't know, 10-0 or whatever in the Philippines, and then you come over here to the US as an opponent and you lose, and then you go back. No, that's not we want to build up the right fighters the right way and give them the right opportunities.
I think that's amazingly appreciated in the Philippines. Like we said, we know the struggles that Filipino boxers have there because it's such I mean, there's 7,000 islands and et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
And getting that global recognition. And you are completely correct. Building up from the grassroots, like you said, the roots of a tree. So when they come into the world stage, they have that backing of their people, their kababayans, their friends, their neighbors, everybody in their grassroots level already knows them. So you don't have to bring them, like you said, barely known, and then they go as an opponent, come back, and then people really don't support them because on a world level, they had seen them already lose. We
Yeah.
want to make sure that they are built where they have that support, that if they do fall, they only fall amongst friends.
Right.
Exactly.
And I know for sure, just the inspiration that you give from all of these guys, and we've already assembled to create something great with your help, to help all of these guys. And me as a fighter, I've seen so many talented fighters in the Philippines that were never supported, and with your help, they will all see the spotlight and the stage when they're able to.
Now, this is the last question. Sorry, Richard, but this
No,
is a good.
no, by all means.
Where can we watch the Probellum fights?
Okay, so we are in the process. One of the people we hired, so we are going to do our own events in the United States, but we are going to be, as I said before, we're going to place our fighters on different fight cards as well. So they might be on ESPN, they might be on PBC, on Fox and Showtime, they might be on all different kind of Matchroom, I mean on the Zone, they might be on all different kind of promotional thing. But at the same time, we of course building up our own network relationships, both domestically here in the United States, but as well internationally. And the idea is as well, as we are entering all these global relationships I mentioned before, Ghana, Australia, all these different markets, New Zealand, and so on, Dominican. We actually hired somebody who is again the smartest in this particular space. His name is Eric Winter. Eric Winter was the CEO of Rivals.com, big online platform, which then became part of Yahoo. And then he was at UFC for a long time. He's the one who built up the UFC Fight Pass. The UFC Fight Pass is a platform, a digital platform where you can go and watch content. You can watch UFC fights. You can see background and information, and you can read and you can watch and you can purchase merchandise, all sort of things. So really a digital portal. And we are in the so Eric Winter, that guy who built up the UFC Fight Pass, is now the chief operating officer for Probellum. And he one of his many tasks are to build up a digital platform for Probellum, which is going to become sort of like the home for fight fans, where if they're interested and they want to see those fights from all over the world, for example, Philippines, if they're going to want to watch it, it's going to be on that website. So he is currently in the process of building that. It's not up yet. We actually talked to 3-4 different vendors about helping us build it, the technology background, to have the right infrastructure that you can watch this in a high definition way. I mean, there's not going to charge. It's not going to be no charge to watch that, so it's going to be free for all. And we just want this sort of like to be the place where fight fans can go and watch fights, fights from different countries, different places around the world, fights which they wouldn't be able to see otherwise. And I believe we actually had an executive call this morning. I believe that this platform is going to be up and running in different stages as we're building it, but the plan is to have it ready to go by sometime in December on a full scale. So we will see how that goes.
I can't thank you enough for coming on such
Yeah,
short
thank
notice.
you.
I
Thank
know
you,
we
Richard.
call you a lot.
She was calling me.
Now you can translate all of that, okay?
Yes, I will translate all
Yeah,
of that. No problem. That was very simple. One of the best out there, one of the kindest out there, and they will help Filipino fighters. That's all that there is to it to explain.
Yeah,
We will do that together.
In such pleasure.
We will do that together, Nonito and Rachel, and I'm proud to call you first and foremost my friends. And as I told you when we were there and looking in your eyes, I will never disappoint you. I'm there for you guys, and we're gonna be together now, and we're gonna be together tomorrow and way after. All the best to you, and all the best to the Filipino fight fans. They really are. The Brits are amazing. The Mexican fight fans are amazing, but you guys from the Philippines, you are right up there. You're passionate about your fighters, you're passionate about your culture, and you're passionate about the fights and sports. So thank you, because without fans, we don't have anything either. So a big shout out to the Filipino fight fans, and most importantly, I have to end with that. A big shout out to the Filipino fighters, those young men and women, which we don't even know their names yet, who are maybe training somewhere in one of those gyms in those 7,000 islands you mentioned, and they have a dream to become like you one day. Don't give up on your dream. That's what I tell them. Don't give up on your dream. And we, Nonito, Rachel, me, we will do whatever we can to empower the Filipino fighters. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard, for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you.
So Schaefer _sports on Twitter. And there's a Probellum one as well. Am I correct?
Yes. Same.
So if you want to keep up with all the news updates, they'll be there. Thank you so much again, Richard, for coming by to our little.
Have a good night. Thank you. We'll talk
you,
later.
Thank you.
I'm Jarrell. And I am Logan. Thank you for watching this video. And don't forget to like and subscribe the video. And hit the bell. Ding, ding, ding. KO! Jinx, got ya.
Nonito the Nair.